Hi guys, it's Sydney McKenna from Sydney M. Cardoso and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about collectors. Every collector has a journey and why they started collecting, where they started collecting, but today that won't be about me. It'll be about the man himself and his collection, my father. You know, he's the true reason why I started collecting, and his collection, it's like stepping into a time machine. There's a different piece from every decade, every part of his life, and it's so inspiring. So let's talk about why he started collecting, where he started collecting, and how it brought us closer together. And let me know in the comments who inspired you to start collecting and why. The biggest question I continue to get is, whose collection is this? Is it your collection? Is it your father's collection? And while I address this in my very first video, I would love to dive deeper and talk about our relationship and collecting. So to answer that question, the vast majority of what I show on this channel is my father's collection. However, I have been able to add some select pieces over the years. I'm very fortunate that my father collects a little bit of everything that I love, and I get to reap those benefits. And I learned a lesson from a long time ago that it's better to have two different things than it is to have two of the same. However, like I shared in my top 10 Autobots, we do have two of the same molds of Cosmos, but he was just too cute to not have. The second most asked question I get is, why doesn't your dad show his collection? Why are you the one to show? And you know what? That's a really great question. It all started about a year ago. I was first starting out on my TikTok and I found a trending audio. So I snapped a few videos around of the collection room and I showed him how cool it was, not with the intention to post it. But then I did ask, well, what are your thoughts about me posting it? You know, my father has never really shown anyone his collection outside of a few people. And he said, you know what? Sure, post it. That night, the video went viral. I showed my dad the comments on the video and how everyone was wanting to see more of the collection. And he said, you know what? This is ours. Of course you can. Fast forward a year later, and here we are. Now let's get to meet the man himself, my father. And while he does prefer to remain off camera, I did convince him to do a talking portion of this video. Tell me, when did you first start collecting?
I started collecting in the late 70s. It wasn't so much collecting as I was a small child playing with toys. But luckily, I was able to save most of my toys since childhood.
Love it. Can you show us some of those toys?
Happy to.
So I know this was one that you had from your childhood growing up. Can you tell me a little bit more about this one?
Yeah, it's from a line of toys called Exo Squad. It had a cartoon, as everything in the 80s did. The figures were similar in size to Mask, just with a more futuristic, robotic, aliens versus humans kind of a theme. And it's one of the toy lines that I think was just way ahead of its time.
Okay, and I asked you to share some obscure toys from your childhood. What can you tell me about these?
Yeah, they're from a toy line called Sectors, and it was insectoid humanoids. You had the good guys that looked more like insects. The good guys looked more like humans. One of the really cool play features was they had larger insect mounts that they could ride, and the legs were a hand puppet. So you'd put your hands in and they could act like the legs, and then you'd have buttons that you could push and flap wings.
Was there another toy line from your childhood that you really liked or made an impression on you?
G.I. Joe. I think every young boy loved G.I. Joe. You had military figures against the evil Cobra. It was fantastic.
Okay, so you're known as the man on the internet with the Transformers collection. What got you first started into Transformers, or why do you love them so much?
Well, I played with the Generation 1s as a kid, and I walked into a Walmart one day and saw Star Wars Transformers, and I had to have them. So I bought one, which turned into almost all of those. So after getting into Cybertron, I realized that the Star Wars crossovers weren't made that well, but I loved the Cybertron figures. They were bulky, blocky, you know, they would stand the test of time. After I completed most of Cybertron, I went and started looking for the ones I had missed. Energon, Armada, Robots in Disguise. and a passion was born.
So tell me a little bit about the toy lines that you collect.
Well, I collect a little bit of everything. Love stuff from NECA. They do some of the more obscure lines. I collect Marvel Legends, DC. DC keeps changing who's making them, so you kind of have to start over with the main characters every few years.
Well, I know you collect a lot. We can't collect it all. So what are some of your favorite things you're collecting right now?
Right now, Mezco. It's 1/12 scale. They're just excellent. Each one is kind of Mezco's own version. The second thing I'm really into is hot toys, specifically hot toys that are Star Wars. I collected the Black Series, still do, but you can't get better than the 1/6 scale.
Okay, but you have to have at least one current favorite line. What would that be?
Hands down, Mythic Legions. They are a fantasy line. They're not tied to anything. It's a creation of the Four Horsemen, and they are fantastic. You can customize them. They come out with such great figures. You have elves and orcs and goblins, and no one else is doing that. These are fantastic.
Agreed.
Out of the hundreds that they've released, I am missing 5.
Last and final question. As a grown man, why action figures?
Well, part of it's nostalgia, and part of it is I think that action figures are a form of art, and it's come such a long way over the last few decades, and it's just pure. It's fun, it's wholesome. I love it.
As you guys can tell, my father is very passionate about his collection. And it's not just stuff, it's his passion and what he enjoys to do. And honestly, one of the coolest things about my life is being able to enjoy that with him. Again, let me know in the comments when you guys first started collecting or why you first started collecting. We would love to hear it. And let me know if any of you guys agree with my father. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll be seeing you in next video. Bye.